Awesome. Thank you, Bella, for the great introduction. So I'm truly excited because this is our last panel of GovTechCon. So I'm really excited about that. But let's kick things off. We don't have that much time left. So let's kick things off with some introductions. It's always a privilege to learn about the unique journeys of folks. So if you could take just a couple of moments to just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
All right, I need it. There we go. David Miller. My background is really crazy, so I'm really trying to support the event. Especially, I've learned that there's a number of you who are just entering the GovTech space and even technology at large. So I'm kind of tell my story from that standpoint. Background is crazy. I have a double bachelor's in finance and marketing. Started a couple companies, small, web dev companies, and end up going into media companies. One was purely to get in concerts for free, and it worked. And I got to interview Erica Badu and had my frat there, and it was a ball. And I got paid to do it. But overall, one thing about me is I love to solve problems, right? And so just finding unique, novel ways to solve problems, taking an initiative to do that. And so I had a conversation just recently with a lady outside, and we were talking about one of the entryways is project management. So at some point, I'll talk about that. But definitely one of my foundational areas was project management, and end up, wasn't really planning to come back into the government. I did a short stint in the military for 4 years. Um, got into language technologies after getting my master's. Fast forward, that same key strengths of taking initiative, a love of technology, trying things, pitching the idea, following through, delivery has led me now to be the interim CTO of the FBI.
Hello. Yep. Nitin Vartak, CTO at Alpha Omega. Um, and thank you, David. I mean, this is a very exciting journey of yours, and I'm on the contracting side of federal government. Before coming to federal government, I've been working in financial sector, worked in stock exchange integration in Japan, bank unification in Latin America, and then when I started working around DC area, I got interested in mission. And that's what drove my love for technology. By education, I'm a mechanical engineer. And at some point, I realized technology is my calling. And then in DC, mission. My first impactful work was during Hurricane Katrina, when we developed a system to find housing for 45,000 people stuck in the dome. And after that, it was just the sheer satisfaction of serving that mission makes me stick to federal government contracting and just work through that. Currently, my company serves Department of State, Homeland Security, and we focus on a lot of mission-based outcomes, and that's where my calling is, I believe. So thank you.
So one of the things that I found out behind the scenes is both of them transition from project management. And I know I've met throughout this entire conference many folks who are transitioning, trying to figure out how they can pivot into tech. So definitely you can become a CTO one day. So we appreciate those insights. Alrighty, so this question is for you both, David and Nitin. So you both represent organizations at the forefront of our national security and innovation. I'd like to dive into your perspectives. How do you define innovation in your respective organizations? And practically, what does leveraging emerging technologies look like to gain strategic advantage?
Awesome. So, team, remember I told you keep me honest on time, so I'm gonna be looking for you. Uh, I love this space, innovation management science. I feel like as technology advances, especially with AI and other emerging technologies, the people who can figure out how to use these technologies to solve hard problems are the ones who will win, both in the startup entrepreneurial side, but also within government agencies and corporate entities with the entrepreneurship side. So I've always looked at innovation from two lenses. One is innovation as a verb and innovation as a noun. right? So as a verb, you're doing an action, while a noun is the things that you receive. It's important to understand anybody you're talking to about innovation of which one they're thinking about. Innovation as a verb is hard. Right? Innovation as a noun is usually after the hard work is done and they now receive this tangible outcome. But ultimately, when I look at innovation ecosystems and what does innovation mean to me as a verb, it is doing it by design, right? The ability to ideate, take that idea, test that idea cheap, fast, to valuable problems. That those valuable problems have to meet the creative need of your working staff, but also has to be strategically relevant, right? Many times on my journey, I've been burned so many times by not matching those two, by saying, hey, it's a problem that matters to the employee and to the operations, but it also has to align with where the strategic value is, because that's where the leaders and decision makers are going to finance. Once you marry those two up, now you have the opportunity to start entering into the transition stages. So for me, that innovation ecosystem and innovation lifecycle as a verb, those are the core activities. Innovation as a noun is different than invention. And so for me, like I like to, when I used to teach kind of product management, I would tell my students, hey, Segway was a great invention, right? The inventor of the Segway, if you all don't remember, is that little joint that you be moving on and the mall cops be like kind of rolling around, right? Well, it didn't turn out to be a great innovation, right? The business failed. It went bankrupt. And now you see Segways kind of vanished in a sense, but the technologies itself is in a lot of things, right? And so it's an invention, but not the innovation. And innovation as a noun is where you match problem, you match the opportunity, and it succeeds in the market. All three of those have to happen. Sometimes it's just timing. Some people have bad timing and it fails, right? And you're not really innovating the way that you could. And so hopefully those are some takeaways for you. Over to you.
Thank you, David. And as David said, innovation is about a problem, a pain point, and an opportunity. Uh, Working as a government system integrator, you have opportunity to look at the constraints government has, the funding constraint, the policy constraint, and within that, how do you make mission owners' life easy? Everybody is working towards common mission, and infusing that efficiency or improving effectiveness. Now, this is at a very high level generic definition, right? What does it mean in reality? And this is actually applicable, as I understand, there are a lot many folks who are not from IT background or not even government background and trying to break into government. And as you, as a citizen of government services, we face some problem at point. And sometimes we think about, it would have been great if this was just this way. Right there, that thinking, that idea could translate in innovation. When you get a chance to work on these missions, you have to look at, if you are in those shoes of citizen, how does this impact a single decision? So looking at the emerging technologies or technology infusion or even AI, right? And when you talk about innovation, all these things comes into mind. And I'll go into these details later, but some of the best innovations we have ever provided to our customers are not this AI doing these great things. It's literally the eliminating mundane tasks from their workplace. Coming on Monday morning and going through the inbox and clearing inbox, that is a mundane task. They would rather focus their time on something else, the mission-oriented stuff. If we can help them even clean up the inbox, that is a great innovation. So it doesn't need to be something that you're launching something on the moon. It can be as mundane as clear their time so they can focus on valuable activities. And a lot of times you will see the bigger impacts the system integrators and new entrants in the government contracting are making are in those areas. Those where the innovation grants are going, those are the other transaction authorities are going. Just eliminating these mundane tasks so people can focus on mission. And I think that's how I take innovation is just removing roadblocks from mission owners' way, I would say.
All right. So we know that innovation comes with a lot of challenges, right? And Dave, you kind of spoke on this when you just said innovation as a verb is the hard part. So we want to know from your experience, what challenges have you seen when you're trying to implement and adopt new emerging technologies, and how have you been able to navigate that?
I failed a lot here. And I laugh at it because most innovators, we laugh at our failures because if you don't fail, you won't ever succeed. And so you get your wins through constantly trying things. So I would say we call it the Valley of Death. It goes by a number of names, but after you get that first successful prototype or a proof of concept, and you have a small group of people that's yelling from the rooftops like, "Oh, we did it!" And then the government with all the bureaucracy, security, legal, that you did it might be a year, right? And it's difficult, and everybody loses momentum a lot of times at that point. But the hard part happens right after that. And so I would say, from my standpoint, the hardest piece was that secret sauce I just gave you all for free, which was like a good 5 years of tweaking the concepts. And that is, you need a strategic champion in the decision making group, right? So if you don't have someone who says what you're doing actually matters, then it doesn't matter how well you solve the problem for an operator in the field, a mission group. If that strategic leader doesn't see how it meets their objectives for their larger world context, your your capability will fail. And so I found that, funny enough, communication is the number one thing to get it over. How can you communicate with the right people at the right time to fall in love with the idea? Usually, most innovation people will start with, "Imagine if you did this," right? I start conversations like, "Oh, imagine if you did this," right? But ultimately, what you have to do, there's a great book by Simon Sinek that says, "Start with why." And I love it because I use that technique all the time. You don't win over people's minds first. You win over their hearts and their feelings. I don't care if it can be the ruggedest general, right? They care about saving lives. They care about meeting the mission need, and they need that feeling of sense of security and ensurement that, oh, you are doing that thing, right? I like to pull on heartstrings first. I speak to their emotional mind, and then I make sense with it, going back to project management and structure in a way that demystifies what I'm saying. If I'm on a conversation, I'm geeking out on stuff, I see everybody's eyes is like glaze over. I've been told in the past, like, "Dave, you sound like an academic." So I had to remove all of the jargon. So I don't use any jargon. I just say simple stuff like, "Oh, that's near, mid, and far." Like, I'm not saying the three horizons, the McKinsey's three horizons. I'm not using any academic terms now. I speak to the audience because that's communication. They need to understand me. And if they don't understand what I'm saying, then how can I win them over? And so I would say, if I was to give you like a takeaway as future entrepreneurs in the government, we need you all, is that you have to do both of those. Get that strategic champion. The last thing is that strategic champion is not going to stay there for a long time. They're going to rotate to another job. They're going to do something else. So you have a short window to execute. So always kind of think in that timetable of like, well, what can I get done in 12 months? And scale down your idea to probably 6 months, because you're going to have to deal a lot of bureaucratic hurdles to get over. So your idea is 6 months. If you show that as valuable, it allows them to claim the win. And so usually I'm trying to help those leaders tell their win story, and I recruit them to say, "Hey, look what I did." And I'm not selfish. And for you to be a good innovator, you got to give it over to others, right? Your job is I love seeing the problem get solved. That's where my joy sparks, from that standpoint. So hopefully that helped.
Thank you, David. And as a system integrator, we are on the other side. And I was talking to David outside, and I realized how open he is to ideas. And one of the challenge in being a government employee, especially in DC, is that on the one side, media is saying, why are you not innovative or fast moving like other industry? And on the other side, anytime there is a simple small mistake, it gets blown out of proportion, right? So there's a balance they have to strike. So a couple of challenges that we face in implementing innovation is perceived disruption risk. Would this create a chaos in my organization? And do I have to sit in front of Congress? And that's a real risk. And then when we get approval for some innovations, for some emerging technology, is there a skill set out there? Uh, Everybody wants AI. Are there even enough trained AI people out there right now? Right, those two challenges. And uh, when we are looking at solving these challenges, something that worked for us is collectively, people call it research and development center of excellence, but really a group of people who are cross-functional, who are continuously churning out these minimal viable products, putting it in front of government customers, those champions that you talked about, David, and giving a comfort that, yes, this has the capability. This can scale to the level you need. And two, by making those folks work on this MVP and establishing those relationships with vendors, you get skilled resources. Because it is easy to blame government on services that are not going great. But if you put yourself in their shoes, the fine line they have to walk to have that risk reward balance, uh, putting those innovations in those constraints is a difficult job. And I think that's the biggest challenge. How can you make that innovation pragmatic and low risk, still have a highest impact on citizen life? I think that's the biggest challenge to solve in government environment, I would say.
I want to stick to the theme of challenges. And Nitin, could you go first because you kind of got me thinking about this. So you talked about striking balance, right, with innovation. Is cybersecurity and the different regulations that are out having to apply controls? Do you see that it's kind of impeding on the speed of getting products and services out? And how do you strike the right balance?
Oh boy, definitely. For last 2 years, we have seen several federal mandates, OMB initiatives, and many laws, right? And what we have seen consistently is our customers who are into cybersecurity, CISOs, ISOs, they're getting burdened under the manual processes. And in addition to that, anytime you bring in innovation, especially like LLMs, which has a fuzzy touch points. Until now, every product implementation or service, you could very well draw on the board and say, these are the 10 touch points, this is where data is coming from. With LLMs and AI, it becomes a little bit fuzzy. You can't really easily draw the boundaries where it is. And what that means is when you propose solutions, determining, is it secure? Is it safeguarded? Is my data leaking? Becomes difficult. And when you put it in the context of OMB mandates, the zero trust framework, the laws and everything, you have to go through the whole lot of paperwork where you as a customer decide, is this innovation even worth it? So one of the things we have started looking at is when we provide solution, MVP, our data and AI center of excellence always work with our cybersecurity center of excellence. Fortunately, our cybersecurity center of excellence is run by ex-CISO from Department of Justice. So he brings that understanding of where government is coming from, and also brings a lot of vendor relationships. So he mitigates a lot of those risks and provides a path forward. So just to give an example, in Homeland Security, we're working on some LLM-based use cases. And immediately when we were developing that, he made us bundle the security environment and security STNE feature capabilities with that, because he said, you can give it to your customer who like it. It will not go through ATO. So he made those logs, outcomes, evidence possible, saying, okay, now take it there. So instead of waiting for 8 months, you can get the ATO in probably 3 months or something like that. And for those who are not in the government, 3 months might sound long time. It is fast. for ATO. And David, you know that, right? And so
Authority to operate.
yeah. Sorry, thank you about that. It's authority to operate. It's the approval you need to receive before you put something new in the production for government. And so it does impede. But I think if you look at the mission need and understand the environment it is going through, you could eliminate some of the roadblocks from your customers' journey and allow them to get through that security journey faster. I think it is getting better with a new crop of tools, cybersecurity tools, which provide compliance automation, automated discovery of evidence. It is getting better. But I would say 2 years ago, it was pretty much a mess getting any innovation out. And from that point, I think we are making good progress. I'm pretty sure, David, you have gone through some real life examples there.
So we have an executive order that came out called 14028. It's one of the largest cybersecurity improvement and modernization policies that's come out, and it required us to move to different architecture types and constructs like called zero trust, meaning that we do not trust anybody, right? We don't trust our employees, we don't trust our technologies, we don't trust the data. Everything needs to be verified that it is who it says it is, either objects, technology, or people. And so moving to this modernized approach has been difficult, right? But you nailed it. Trying to balance cybersecurity concerns and the crazy amount of emerging risk that's addressing us globally, in addition to modernizing and building new capabilities and doing all of that fun innovation that I was talking about, right? Before this job as a CTO, I was a chief innovation officer. So now I see all the pains that I gave the CTO, right? Because I was the guy like, oh, we could do that. Oh, come on. Like, look what this startup is doing. And then now I'm like, oh, no, man. Like, like, oh my gosh, you know what that's gonna probably cause. So it is an interesting thing to kind of walk that journey to be on both sides of the house and also working with startups. When they in the commercial sector, you have this concept of like, move fast, break things, and then you have the opportunity to fix it. Imagine if we did that. What are the consequences to our citizenship? You have the wrong individuals who's going to get arrested. You're going to have, like people's lives are on the line. So I think our citizenship, and as a citizen, as a minority, right, and an organization that had historical baggage to my community, right, I'm very sensitive to those things, and we have a diverse point of view, but sometimes it's okay to go slow, right? I don't need the shiny new thing. I just need to do the thing better. And sometimes that means taking not the latest new version, right? I love testing the new stuff, but I might be a version or two behind, and it's okay, right? As long as we keep moving the needle forward. From a cybersecurity standpoint, the versions that are behind have already had the bad guys trying to get into it, right? They've already solved a lot of those things, right? The proverbial 0-day event, right? The 0-day event, the risk is much higher on the new thing, right? So for LLMs, as an example, there's a lot of researchers in academia and other places at this time that's still looking at what are some of the threats that are being presented, right? At first, we dealt with, hold on a second, you telling me I put my data in here, you're using that to train so that my competitor can now build the same capability I'm building because I put my software in here to get improved? Oh, hold up. And then you saw that they fixed that. They gave you the option of, oh, don't let the data train, right? Well, I don't need to do that, right? What if case data got out there? What if these key things that got out there? So, looking at cybersecurity, I love how it was presented, right? Is that we have to look at it in a balanced way. It's constantly balancing it. I love our cybersecurity teams, and I have so much more appreciation for them now, sitting on this side of the house and realizing that bad guys are trying to get into your devices, get into our devices. We have entire countries that are trying to get into our stuff. So we have to have really strong cybersecurity. And so it's okay to go slow at points. And so that was hopefully is how we've been trying to navigate some of that in this current state.
Awesome. And so you've all mentioned, many different players that you work with. And innovation rarely happens in isolation. Could you talk a little bit about the collaboration and the partnerships that you may have with academia, public sector, private sector to bring things to vision?
Oh, definitely. And absolutely. Innovation would not be possible without collaboration. Um, vendor community provides us essential support. And we talked about it a little bit a minute ago, how uh, in, in commercial world, you fail fast and you fail early. Government does not have that leisure or luxury of fail fast, fail early. So we rely on vendor community to go through those risky options and come up with a reliable option. So vendor community provides us that necessary support and new innovations and ways to apply those at scale. And what we provide them are the real life problems from government community. When it comes to universities or other partners, and in our organization, we have something called a talent age, fancy name, but what really it means is anytime you need a skilled resource, it's going to be expensive. Good people are expensive, period, right? And competing between the government salaries versus the Silicon Valley salaries, guess who is winning? How do you tackle that problem? You find those talented people early in universities where you partner with them. You help universities design those curriculums. What is coming up in future? Look at the problems and you partner with them. Currently, we are working with 2 universities, working with advising them on the curriculum. And what we get in return is access to their folks coming out of cybersecurity or technology programs. And we could then get them and move into the next level. Their security clearances, they're putting them on real mission programs and help us on the mission side. And third and foremost, the collaboration with government. There are several, just not only our contracts, but there are several vehicles, CIBR, Small Business Innovation Research Grant, other transaction authorities. I recently learned something called CREDA, where you form a joint venture with Army to solve their problems. Many of these collaboration events allow us to work in a safer environment where we as a contractor can take a little bit of risk of failing on our side, and government is benefited to the benefits of success. And what we get in return is additional revenue. So together, I think this ecosystem, I think is well balanced and works like a well-oiled machine. You can't really be thinking I'm at the top of it or the bottom of it. It is really well balanced, and the way vendors work with us and the way vendors sometimes put us in front of the customers, those champions that you talked about, David, or the problems they identify, or sometimes our government customers, and they come and talk about the problems we could solve. That collaboration and that trust is what really drives the innovation and the pragmatism in that innovation. That pragmatism is really important here because we want to reduce the risk. Just simple example, my company works on some asylum programs, refugee programs, and immigration programs. Imagine if we don't have those innovations and some of those bugs go into production and systems don't work. Somebody coming out of those wanton countries may not get admitted here. Sitting here and talking about that, it doesn't impact us, but it really a life-changing impact on those, and making sure that mission outcome is right every time matters. And that's why those collaboration and those ecosystem matter.
And I would say from the government context, success only happens through collaboration, period. And I'm gonna use AI as the kind of area to kind of talk about the multiple areas of collaboration that we're working. And so, uh, like was mentioned, the CRADA or Cooperative Research and Development Agreement, we established one of those with Berkeley University, right? And so we have that engagement with them focused on AI, digital exhaust, cybersecurity, and a couple other areas. And so that is a direct relationship, non-monetary, right? Just sharing, we share our problems, our expertise, and what we're seeing. And then now we can have academia, students, researchers kind of look to solve those problems. There's other procurement vehicles out there that I established. Our first one for the FBI called a broad agency announcement. And in that broad agency announcement, the first thing you'll see, it talks about AI, right? That was delivered it took us 3 years to make it to get the idea over the hump, which is crazy, right? But at the same time, I had a conviction that this is a faster way for us to finance underrepresented founders, startups, and just the community of entrepreneurs who don't usually get access to us. It gave us an opportunity to engage with them in a monetary way. And so we wrote out a whole bunch of problems. And that was one of the biggest challenges. They're like, are you sharing our problems to the world? Like what's going on? And I was like, well, this is how we can partner, right? Because that BAA is not only for products and services, it also supports white papers, hearing from citizenship on how can we do things better, leveraging these technologies. So that's one other area. Academia directly, right? And so for some of you who might be interested in joining the Bureau, also recruiting, we have a huge campus out of Huntsville. I know in DC, some of y'all was like, Huntsville? Yeah, like Huntsville, Alabama. I'm telling you, it is blowing up. They have NASA out there. You got Missile Defense Agency. You have a number of the Intel community. I believe Facebook even has a data center out there, and they are growing, right? And we have a huge establishment, thousands of jobs that's gone out to Huntsville as well. And so from that standpoint, but there's a partnership with Huntsville University, right? We also have a initiative with all of the university cyber programs where we would kind of share insight into emerging threats with them, and they share it back with us. And now that keeps the student body fresh of what's actually happening in the world, right? And InfraGuard is the name of the program that we support at most universities. Then kind of looking at the vendor side of the house in the innovation office that I founded, we had a portfolio that would finance startups, right, who were dual use, meaning you're delivering capabilities for the commercial sector, but you're also looking to support the GovTech space. And how I talked to my entrepreneurs was like, listen, I have HR problems too. I have to pay people. I got finance problems too, just like any other corporate entity, except we have classifications, we have a bit more nuances of air gapped environments, right? We have a couple challenges that you have to go through. Our security posture is very different from some companies. Banks, they're protecting our money. They better have good security, right? And so it's very similar to the government space. So in that case, if you're delivering capability to a bank, that will work for us. But there's also sharing insight of emerging problems that they're solving and uncovering, and now we can learn to say, oh, okay, this is what's coming. And well, guess who uses all technology first? Bad guys. They have no rules. They don't care. They're trying to be efficient too with their criminal activities. Therefore, we need to understand how is the techniques and tactics of bad guys are changing, right? And so that's another kind of relationship. And so that's what a group of vendors, our entrepreneurial community, but then with our larger vendors, we have forums and sessions with them that we engage with we have a CEO group where we share insights, especially on cybersecurity. Everyone cares about cybersecurity right now. So I love a lot of the sessions on cybersecurity because the world is getting more complex. It's more dangerous. We have more technology. All of you have, cell phones in your pocket. I used to use this back in the day, which is that cell phone in your pocket is more powerful than the computer that had the rocket that went to the moon, right? And the moon landing. Think about that for a minute. You all are walking around with the ability to do that in your pocket, right? It's crazy times, right? And now we have AI, and it's just going to get better. As it gets better, there's also more threats. And so through that avenue, I've talked about finance, how we partner on that side, academia, the vendors, both entrepreneur, large group of, and then it's citizenship, right? The citizens, giving them a forum to engage with us locally, right? In every state, we have a field office, right? We've had some people just walk in and just talk to us and like, hey, I'm dealing with this situation. Can you help me? And we do that too, right? Some counseling activities. So a lot of people just don't know. I'm on the stage here to you to kind of demystify, right? It's like I always had this one weird question at recruiting events. It's going to be kind of risque here, but so the first question I got was, "Are you an agent?" And I'm like, "Nah." It was like, and they were like, "Hold on a second. I thought it was only agents work at the bureau." I was like, "I'm not no agent, man. I'm a techie." And then the next one, shout out to the Noops, if any Noops in the room. Shout out to the Noops, my frat. And so they was like, "Yo, I didn't know black people worked at the FBI." you know, and I was like, "Yeah, we there too, man." like, and so just engaging, getting out there and just talking to people to say, hey, listen, what's kept me here is tied to this conversation about collaboration and community, right? Is that when your family is a victim, right? I want to solve those problems. I'm not the person to sit in the background. I like to step up and be like, yo, okay, I need to fix this. How can I help? And that's what we do, right? At the heart of it is stopping bad guys from doing some evil crap. There's a lot of evil crap out there. And so I know I went off track a little bit there. We'll bring this back to you.
No, you're good. That was very insightful. And so just kind of along the same lines, y'all talked about academia filling in kind of the talent gap for y'all. But is that the only method that you have for, bridging the skills gap? You talked about AI and large language models, for example. How do you bridge the skill gap so that, the next generation of folks or projects, are delivered on time?
Very, very interesting question. I don't think we have solved it fully. And it's a generational questions because um, I remember going back 20 years ago when I was working on the Japanese stock exchange integration, there were a handful of technologies. And then we were talking about, man, the technologies are coming up every 6 months now, and who will keep it up? And now, 20 years later, there is new technology every day. I was in AWS reInvent some time ago, and just a sheer amount of innovation happening in technology world, you can't keep up with that. That also means traditional ways like training, your training courses, hands-on discovery, those are almost getting thrown out of the window. What you are looking at is resourceful, cross-trainable individuals. And there are 2 or 3 ways we are tackling this on our side. Half of our company works in the cleared environment for law enforcement, Department of State. Half works in the civilian area. So starting from there, looking at clearances and then looking at, okay, what kind of skills we need and forecasting those skills, looking at what mission problems we are getting. Even right now, there is a exercise going on in my company, new administration, what are their priorities? Which new initiatives are coming out? If these initiatives turn into revenue-driven contracts, then what kind of skills we need? Do we have those skills? Do we have those skills in DC area? Do we even have people to train up? Do we have to go outside Huntsville, Alabama, or Mississippi, or California? Where do we get these people? We start with that forecast or trending, and then look at what personnel we have available. Then we talk to university partners that we have and understand how many people are coming out of their education program, what backgrounds they have, and then look at, can we train them on the job? Can we work them in our R&D departments to work on the prototypes? Can we allow them to roam freely and create these innovative products that we can drive through these vehicles and put in front of customers? And by the way, all three means have worked for us. Just it is difficult to predict which one will work. And identifying those folks and then getting them through clearances much earlier is the strategy we are pursuing. Is this perfect? No, because priorities change. Congress passes laws left and right. Government shutdown looms. You should be able to afford them on your payroll. And all these challenges are together. Over the period of time, you build your playbook. You work with your government agencies, ask them of their priorities, work with your vendors. Can they augment you? And through the partnership you have developed with them, allow them to give you sandboxes, free trainings, the solutions they have developed. So this upskilling problem, or this problem of finding right talent is age old, but it is just getting worse and worse with the acceleration of technology innovation. And rather than relying on older learn and then come to job, you come to job, you try your hand out and see what the gaps are. Can you get quick training? Unfortunately, now there are new training methods available that gives you very targeted training. Thanks to AI, you could actually take some survey and look at where your gaps are, and it directly takes you to those courses. Thanks to MIT, which released that AI-based training module, etc. So we are looking at every possible avenue to get upskilling done. And thankfully, with COVID, government opened up to remote work more than they were, right? And we are able to get talent outside DC area. So that helped us a lot, and the talent pool is wide open. But still, upskilling problem is still there. And then how we work through that is continuous innovation in that matter. So within upskilling, we have some innovative mechanism and techniques that we apply every time.
I'm trying to be mindful of our time, so I'm going to try to keep this short to 3 concepts. One is going to be an unconventional answer to upskilling. Upskilling is a fundamental problem, but it is a multifaceted problem. So the first one, the teams, I'm going to start with the teams that and the people that I found to be the most successful, regardless if they have the skill or not. And when I usually do my recruiting, I actually look for some key attributes and then your technical acumen last, right? And I call them T-shaped people, right? So these T-shaped people that I look for is, one, do you have a curiosity for technology? If you're trying to come into the technology space and you just don't have a natural curiosity for technology, you will struggle. I'm going to be honest. And the reason being is that it changes so fast. And it doesn't only change forward, it also changes backwards. Imagine you come into an organization and now you get hit with learning something that was built in the 90s and it hasn't been updated, and you need to learn to use it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've never used this before. Hint, hint, that happened to me. I came in and I literally was like, oh my God, like, are you serious? I haven't used this since elementary school. I don't even know how to use this. And I was stressed. I literally was like, I think I made the worst decision of my life. But then the next week, it's such advanced technology with people with 2 PhDs that I just shut up and didn't talk for the first 3 months. They might have thought I was a mute, but nobody knows you don't know what you don't know if you don't open your mouth. So I went and asked them questions, and they said, read this paper, read that paper. But I'm just giving you the dichotomy in the organization, which is, on one hand, I had to learn old technology, but then turn around and learn something brand new that researchers were learning, right? But the only reason I was able to survive that moment is because I'm curious about technology. So that's part one, is your curiosity. The second one is initiative. I mentioned that before. I've I personally believe, I think this is one of the biggest challenges in the government from a government employee standpoint. It's not enough initiative. Like, you see a problem, solve it. Try to solve it efficiently, solve it better so that the next person coming, they can do that. If you have a vendor or contractor partner who has a way to solve something, support them, enable them. Let's take the initiative to fix the problems. But many times people like to fix they like to band-aid the solution, not the root cause, but the symptom. So the skill sets of infinite curiosity and initiative has nothing to do with technology, but they will be the things that will make you win, right? From the technical acumen standpoint, if you have those two things, and I find people like that, from interns to, I had to take a training on multi-generational training because I was not talking to some of my seniors in the right way when it came to management styles. We had different management styles. I was like, yo, don't micromanage me. I don't want to micromanage you. For them, they thought it was just giving clear instructions. And so we just had a fundamental communication problem. So my leader recommended that. But I bring that up because it's a key point, right? Is that we're in this unique time in history that never happened before, where you have he grew up with the iPhone. My youngest child, she's walking around with an Oculus on. Think about that for a minute. Look what the iPhone did to the world. And I'm like, oh boy, let me start playing around. And I'm running around the house. Back to what did I mention before? Curiosity, right? To learn and to try to look foolish, right? I found that in that multi-generational group, the people who are winning, they're the ones who are okay looking foolish. And so from that standpoint, that T-shaped person, what I'm getting to there is everybody has a superpower. You need to find what it is, and you need to invest in it heavily. You will never go wrong investing in yourself. It could be project management. It can be communication. It could be marketing. It could be a very niche spot in technology, right? Like my wife, she's looking at psychology and technology and trying to figure that out. And it's not a big field in it. I was like, yo, you better do that. You got me over here teaching you everything on advanced tech, and you got the psychology piece. So that is some takeaways is find your superpower, lean into it, and then the technical pieces, take from some of these free courses, Free Code Academy, write that down. That'll give you the full stack on full stack development, data science, machine learning for free. They have local communities. Here in DC, there's communities, Baltimore's communities, Alexandria, et cetera. Udacity, Coursera. Udacity was just bought by Accenture, but it still is a great program. Coursera, another one. edX, another one. Cheap programs that you don't need to spend a lot of money to get upskilled in these new and emerging technologies.
Thank you both, David and Nitin, for this insightful conversation. I do want to just allow you the opportunity to just put out any gems or insights to the audience before we end this conversation today.
A lot of what David said applies tremendously. You could be highly educated or not educated or anything. Curiosity plays a big part. And that allows you to learn new things. Technology is moving at such a fast pace that you cannot wait until finishing the whole course and then try to apply it. Just experiment. I would say I think that's what's work. A lot of times we see people making difference in the technology world are the ones not coming from technology world. They have different background. You understand your domain better. And by understanding that domain better, you are able to apply real life solution using technology. Technology is just a mean to solve the problems. And if you go with that mindset, I think you would be much more successful than somebody coming from technology background. Uh, I'm very much, thank you, David, for using that word T-shaped. I was trying to avoid some government jargon we use, mile wide, inch deep, or inch wide, mile deep. What that means is a T, if you look at T shape, you know a lot of things and pick and choose some things where you want to be expert in. But that's what you cannot be sticking to that because eventually what you are expert in can change and you need to change with that. Fortunately, David gave a list of things that you can go and look at and learn about. YouTube has amazing amount of learning resources. You don't even have to go anywhere else. This type of, I want to learn this, and somebody might be explaining it in a practical way, in a theoretical way, or in a funny way. There is a just way to learn that. And almost everywhere, we used to give out these training programs, annual subscriptions. We stopped that because right now there's no one resource survives. Some of your bugs are resolved on Reddit. People find instant answers on Reddit, right? You couldn't even think about that. So all these avenues available are at your disposal. Just be curious, take advantage of that, and start with some innovation. Government is in dire need of innovations, and that's your entry into this world, I would say.
So if I'm gonna put myself in your shoes, especially those of you who are looking to enter in the GovTech space or transition in the technology space, for you to walk away with some tangible things to go home and do, right? Number one is that most of the government and commercial sector is adopting cloud as their core capability and methodologies to adopt. New everything from your AI capabilities to almost anything is going to be going through cloud for the most part. And there's only a few cloud service providers that are serving the government, right? So if you end up focusing on, say, like an AWS certification, right, or an Azure certification with Microsoft, Google Cloud Platform certification, or Oracle certification, you've like hit 90% of that world, right? So these are some tangible certifications that will pay immediate dividends, right? Vendors and others, they are looking for that type of talent who are solutions architects or associate solution architects. Huge win, right? One of my first time hearing Simone talk on, shouldn't say this on TikTok. You know, since they about to get shut down and everything, but it's all good. It's a holidays. It's holidays. But your CISSP, right? Start getting those cybersecurity certifications. CISSP is the big boy, right? So like was recommended, CompTIA, and some of the other kind of building up to that space. A space that I'm encouraging more people to get into is actually become an information system security engineer on the technical side of cybersecurity, not just on the business side of cybersecurity. That's in desperate need and it's highly lucrative as well. So hopefully those takeaways can help a lot of you here. And of course, your project management certification. I can't speak highly enough of just project management coming in handy because helps you communicate, and communication is the first step. And so by getting those key assets will help you go a long way.
Thank you both again. Simone, any remarks? No? All righty. Well, let's give a round of applause to David and Nitin for this enlightening conversation.